We act as the grand architects of our own internal realities, operating under the persistent assumption that the human mind is a generator, a factory ceaselessly churning out thoughts, forging concepts, and constructing perceptions from the raw clay of existence. In the relative domain of our daily lives, this functional definition holds weight. We do, indeed, feel as though we are creating the world we inhabit. However, if we dare to peel back the layers of cognition and examine the machinery of awareness with a more critical, philosophical lens, we might discover that the inverse is the profound truth. The mind is not a producer, but a restrictor. It is not a fountainhead of addition, but a mechanism of subtraction. Imagine, for a moment, that consciousness is not a flashlight illuminating a dark room, but rather a thick, heavy curtain drawn across a window that looks out upon a blindingly bright sun. In this view, the mind's primary function is to reduce the overwhelming, cacophonous ocean of mind at large, the totality of cosmic awareness and the unadulterated capacity to interface with reality in its absolute form into a manageable, focused trickle. We are equipped with a biological pressure-reducing valve, tightened almost to the point of closure, ensuring that the deluge of universal data does not drown the fragile ego. Therefore, what we identify as our consciousness is not our connection to reality, but the very filter that estranges us from it. As the visionary writer and philosopher Aldous Huxley posited, our biological imperative is, first and foremost, survival. To navigate the physical threats of this planet, the mind at large must be funneled through the labyrinthine reducing valve of the brain and nervous system. The result is a meager, utilitarian drip of awareness, just enough to keep us alive, but woefully insufficient to show us the truth. While the cultural zeitgeist largely remembers Aldous Huxley as the prophetic fiction writer who penned the dystopian masterpiece Brave New World, relegating him to the shelves of literature, this categorization ignores the colossal weight of his non-fiction and philosophical contributions. Huxley was a polymath of the spirit, a man whose intellect traversed the boundaries between the exterior world of politics, technology, and societal collapse, and the interior, infinite landscapes of ontology, metaphysics, and mysticism. His explorations were not merely literary exercises. They were desperate attempts to map the geography of the human soul, extending into the past, present, and the ethereal future. One of Huxley's most enduring intellectual legacies lies in his championing of the perennial philosophy, or philosophia perennis. This school of thought is not a modern invention, but a resurgence of an ancient subterranean river of wisdom that flows beneath the surface of history. Its roots twist back into the prehistoric soil of shamanic traditions, yet it was not until the Renaissance that figures like Marsilio Ficino and Gottfried Wilhelm Leibniz gave it a formal academic structure. The central tenet of perennialism is staggering in its implications. It suggests that there exists a singular, timeless, and universal truth accessible to the human spirit, regardless of geography, culture, or era. When we examine the history of human thought, we find a mysterious phenomenon. From the dense forests of the Amazon to the arid deserts of the Middle East, from the ascetic caves of the Himalayas to the stone temples of Europe, independent cultures have arrived at remarkably similar metaphysical conclusions without ever having made contact. Perennialism seeks to synthesize these isolated eruptions of wisdom, identifying the golden thread that weaves through the Upanishads, the sermons of Meister Eckhart, and the poetry of Rumi. Huxley argued that these synchronicities are not coincidences, but evidence of a shared ontological reality, a divine ground that underpins the world of things, lives, and minds. It is a psychology that finds the soul to be identical to this divine reality, and an ethic that places the ultimate goal of human life in the realization of this transcendent unity. However, a skeptical, materialist counter-argument naturally arises, casting a shadow of doubt over these mystical assertions. We must ask ourselves, do these universal truths exist because they reflect an objective, external, metaphysical reality? Or do they exist simply because the human instrument, the brain, is the same everywhere? Just as isolated civilizations developed the spear and the spoon not because of telepathy, but because the human hand and the physics of the world dictate similar solutions to survival, perhaps our mystical insights are merely the spears and spoons of the psyche. It is entirely possible that the Philosophia Perennis is simply the result of the human nervous system pressing its standard structural imprint onto the chaos of the world, generating the same hallucinations and archetypes in every epoch. Yet, even if we strip away the supernatural, the consistency of these insights remains profoundly significant. Whether they are objective truths of the cosmos or subjective truths of human biology, they represent a robust, anti-fragile wisdom that has survived the rise and fall of civilizations, immune to the transient oscillations of fashion, technology, and scientific progress. For Huxley, however, the answer was clear. The door to the absolute was real, and it could be opened. The tragedy of the human condition is that our standard, biologically mediated consciousness is the lock. We cannot use our ordinary thinking mind to pick this lock, because the thinking mind is designed to keep it shut. Huxley's theoretical framework was radically transformed from abstract philosophy to visceral experience in 1953, when he participated in a clinical experiment involving mescaline, a potent psychedelic alkaloid derived from the peyote cactus. Under the supervision of a psychiatrist, Huxley watched as the reducing valve of his brain was chemically loosened. The protective filters of the ego dissolved, and the measly trickle became a flood. He described gazing at a simple glass vase containing 3 flowers, a banal object in ordinary time, and seeing it transformed into a vision of naked existence. The utilitarian labels faded. He was no longer looking at flowers or a vase, but witnessing the miracle of being, seeing the world as Adam might have on the morning of creation. This was reality unmediated, the suchness of existence exploding with a vibrancy that the survival-oriented brain typically senses. In his seminal essays, The Doors of Perception and Heaven and Hell, Huxley synthesized these experiences with the theories of philosophers C. D. Broad and Henri Bergson. He solidified the argument that the brain's function is essentially eliminative. We are potentially capable of remembering everything and perceiving the totality of the universe in every moment. But such omniscience would be biologically fatal. We would be paralyzed by the sheer volume of useless data. To ensure we can hunt, gather, and navigate traffic, the nervous system acts as a rigorous editor, leaving us with a curated, symbolic reality that is efficient but illusory. We are left thirsty, taste-testing mere droplets of the mystical oneness that is our birthright. Huxley contends that we are not condemned to this sensory prison forever. Through the deliberate cultivation of valve-opening practices, whether through deep meditation, aesthetic contemplation, religious devotion, or the careful use of psychedelics, we can temporarily bypass the cerebral editor. In these states, the boundaries of the plural world melt away. Time, which is usually a linear tyrant, folds in on itself. The subject-object duality collapses, and we are left with an awareness that is beyond symbols, beyond language, and beyond the self. Ultimately, the veracity of Huxley's specific metaphysical claims is secondary to the utility of his perspective. Whether perennialism points to a literal God or a shared neurological destiny, the message is a call to awaken. These ideas remind us that beneath the mundane surface of our daily routines, there are aquifers of potential revelation waiting to be tapped. We are compelled to question the rigidity of our perceptions and the malleability of our consciousness. If we follow Huxley's map, we arrive at a definition of enlightenment that is not about escaping the world, but about integrating the dual nature of our existence. To be fully aware of the mind at large and its immanent otherness, while simultaneously retaining the capacity to survive as a biological organism. The goal is to realize that the destination we seek is not on a distant horizon, but right here, obscured only by the filters we have forgotten we are wearing.